Hi guys, today's project is a carburetor rebuild. A couple days ago, 2 weeks ago, Diane and me went out and we put the pads up in my deer stands, and we had to go up a steep hill, and on the way home I noticed that the old Bronco, love this old thing, goes anywhere. The best term I could call it was bucking. Whenever I'd give it some gas, it would buck. It idles just fine. It goes fine 55 mile an hour down the road, but it would buck at like mid when you gave it a little bit of gas, which to me that was the symptoms of an accelerator pump diaphragm, which whenever you put your foot on the gas, that pushes that little diaphragm in like so, and it squirts gas into the carburetor until the main jets can take over. Ordered one of those, but at the same time behind that is a little red diaphragm right there. You can see, haven't opened this yet, and they wanted $25 for that diaphragm, and it was a special order, so they wanted, I don't know, $15 shipping and handling, whereas I can buy the whole carburetor kit from O'Reilly's for, I don't know, I think it was 30 bucks, and it's everything, including this diaphragm that I paid $10 for. It's only 2 bolts and a linkage. But yesterday I was out deer hunting, and I went back a different way where there's 2 really steep hills, and I didn't think I was going to make it out of there. Going up the hill, the thing, I'd have to floor it to get it going. And it's definitely positional. When you go straight up in the air, up a steep hill, is when it really acts up, and it only likes to act up when it's hot. When you initially start it and it's cold, it'll idle with the choke and then idle down and run just great. But when you give it a little bit of gas, like in 3rd gear at like 30 mile an hour, it's wanting to buck. Not really missing, not cutting out, it's like bucking. It goes and then it's like it's starving for gas. So I've decided to rebuild this carburetor, and on this 1985 Bronco 2 with a 2.8, I believe it is, it's carbureted last year for the carburetions, and I'm going to walk you through how to rebuild a carburetor. There's really not much to it. We have this diaphragm, and I forget what that is called, but anyways, we're going to open her up and I'll take you through how we do that and see if that's not the symptoms. I was also worried about it being electrical. I've replaced the cap and rotor, but that didn't fix the problem. But I know it would start right now, go down the road just fine, 55 mile an hour, but when I go up or down a steep hill, it's going to start cutting out, and it'll be that way for the drive home. So I think the carburetor is just gunked up. The one thing I am disappointed in is there's no float in here. So I'm a little concerned I'm going to have to use my old float, and what if my old float is bad? And I got the thing all tore apart. Anyways, another little tip is always spray silicone on your gaskets before you put the thing back together, so that if you need to take it apart, the gaskets won't stick and you can reuse them. So let's get the carburetor pulled off, and I'll take you inside where we're going to rebuild it. Alright, carburetor removal is pretty easy, and if you can't do this, you got no business rebuilding a carburetor. So this vacuum line comes off this doohickey, whatever it is, I don't know. Looks like it's working the EGR valve. That goes there. We have one below here to the throttle plate off the intake there. That one is right there, and then there's a big one back here. It goes right there. That's all we've got. Then we got electric wire to the choke, goes there, and we have this electrical connection that goes there to something. I don't really know what in the world that is. Oh, we do have to take this plate off right here. But that's, and then we got some kind of solenoid in the back of the carburetor there, and that'll be it. The only tools you really need are a 12 millimeter and a 5/8 line wrench to take your fuel line right there. You want to make sure you use a line wrench. You don't want to end up rounding your corners off. So that's all you got to do to take it off. It's pretty simple. Gas is going to come, well, should have come out. So that's all there is to it. Comes loose there real easy. The idle, I'll pour the gas out and we're going to take it apart and we'll show you the rest. Okay guys, be sure and read the directions before you attempt this. I know it looks a little overwhelming, but basically the only instructions in here are how to set the choke and how to set the float depending upon which style float you have, and your fast idle cam. And other than that, I know that exploded view looks awful overwhelming, but carburetors, especially these 2-barrel carburetors, are, I know this part doesn't work on mine, never has. I'm just not willing to pay the money to replace the solenoid. I don't know, starts and runs fine without it. But anyways, the only thing that really need to read, just take it apart and put it back like you took it apart, but your float level adjustment, and the big thing is you go off that point right there. You don't go off, there's a little bit of a bevel to the float here. You don't measure from there, you measure from top of the float, not the end of the radius. That would be the radius, so you're going to measure from right there. And you have your dry setting, which is 3/32 from the top of the carburetor. I know when I did the boat, it said with the gasket on it, and the wet setting is 810 thousandths of an inch when it drops down. So that's really the only adjustments. You should not have to mess with the fast idle, which is here, and then your choke, which is pretty simple. When you adjust the choke, you want to take a drill bit and see what your gap is here, and put the proper drill bit in there for that gap, which should be 1/4 of an inch. So you want 1/4 of an inch. Number 2. I don't know, we'll get into it in a minute. I just wanted to show you. Read the directions first. Might look overwhelming. That's a lot of parts. I am a little upset it didn't come with a float, but let's get her off, get the gas drained out, and get her apart for you. Okay, here's the carburetor off of the vehicle. We need to take the top off. So we're going to remove these screws. Remember when you put it back together to do it in a crisscross or a star pattern. Alright, that should be the top of the air horn. Now we need to undo this, and to take this choke loose, you're just going to unscrew the screw. This was on this outside setting right there. Alright, let's see what we got looking like in here. Okay. Now comes the fun part. Try and take your gasket off very gingerly. Well, guys, this is exactly why I'm taking this carburetor apart. This thing has been rebuilt before, obviously. For one thing, we don't have a typical float in here. When I go up and down a hill, I was having problems. I don't know if you can see that. But our float is made out of, it's a metal float. See that crud down in there? What's happened, that varnish, what's happened is this thing has sat and run out of gas. The gas is evaporated because it sat too long. So we're going to try and pull this needle and seat out. So I think we're going to have to pry this up like that. There we go. Okay. That's pretty cool. So instead of it being plastic material, there you go. So we're also going to spray that down with carburetor cleaner. Boy, I don't know how well you can see this, but I really think that's probably our problem right there. Okay. We are going to clean the heck out of this thing. But you can see where the gas had evaporated to down to there. So, also going to take this power valve loose. Okay, gonna have to get us a bigger screwdriver. Take her. We're gonna have to go get us a bigger screwdriver because we're gonna have to take all this apart. And I'll take our accelerator valve off. I think I'm going to leave it attached there and just go ahead and take our bolts out there and pull the thing off. Get that off. We're going to replace that, and we're going to clean the hell out of it. And then we're going to clean, excuse my language, we're going to clean the heck out of it. Take this off. Like there and there. And there's supposed to be a little ball in there. So, they're pretty simple, actually. A 1/4 inch seems to work better. So we need to get us a 1/4 inch. Why do we go from metric to standard? Explain that one to me too. So we're going to take the accelerator pump off next. So when you push your gas pedal, that little plunger shoots a little tiny squirt of gas into the carburetor until the vacuum gets to the point it can draw gas in. You'd think it would just be popping off, but it's not. I don't know what that noise was. It don't want to come off. Okay, I'm also going to take this device off. I really have no idea what that is. But more likely it is there's a diaphragm in there, and I really hate to be spraying carburetor cleaner if there's a rubber there. It just went shooting across the garage, spraying gas everywhere. Ain't that just grand? Don't really know how this works. How do I know if it's good or not? Where do I buy one at? What is it called? So I guess when you pull vacuum on this, it lets gas flow between those two right there. How do you check something like this? I have no idea. Alright. Alright, what that does is that goes to the carburetor. Goes to the carburetor, or to the accelerator pump right there. That works. Alright. Still recording. This spring needs to go in this position right here. See that gunk right in through there? That ain't good. So when you hit your gas pedal, this diaphragm, which initially I thought this diaphragm might be ruptured, but it does look alright. So what that does, when you hit your gas pedal, okay. Now that we got it off, we can figure out how to get this off. It's keyed, and it should just pop right off when we get it turned the right direction. There it goes. Okay. Take that puppy off. Remember, the spring goes like this. Okay? But one of the reasons we're going to carburetor clean that. Look at that gunk. And this is the little diaphragm that we're going to have to figure out how to get out of there, because we're going to replace that. It just tore up on me. Alright, so we got that apart, that apart. So we need to get us a bigger screwdriver, take our jets out. Flip her over, and this sucker here comes apart. One thing to note, I want you to look at the idle needle screw. See where that one's at? Look where this one's not even sticking in. Whoever did this before me didn't have a clue what they were doing, obviously. Now this thing gets unscrewed somehow, so we just need to get us a big piece, big crescent wrench. But here's what I'm upset about. Somebody tried to JB weld this. And there we go. It's not very tight. Okay, now all we got is the internals. Need to find us a big screwdriver, big as we can find. It's not very tight. This is what I've always been afraid of when I worked on carburetors, because there is a check valve in there, and the boat one I just did, you actually had to see that? There's holes through that. And there's that washer I was just saw in the carburetor kit. Didn't know what it was too. So you need to keep up with this stuff. Okay. And we need our and if you get lost, there is the exploded view on the Alright, line ain't coming out. Then we have our jets in here. Houston, we have a problem. Okay. That's about it. If I could get that center. I need to go to O'Reilly's tomorrow. Pick up a new fuel filter here. What the heck? Why the fuel filter is all... bent up.